The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, thank you for joining us today for our BBB Flash webinar. I'm going to turn it over here to our friends here from Affordable IT, and they're going to introduce themselves and their company a little bit and talk to you a little about ransomware. And hopefully, if you have any questions, you can just type them in on the side, and I'm sure they can answer those for you. If for some reason you don't get your questions answered during the session, you can go ahead and email them back to me at bridget@cleveland.bbb.org, or just respond to your invitation to register and we'll get those on to them. So here we go.
Thank you, and thank you to the Better Business Bureau of Cleveland for the opportunity to present this to you. Hope you find it valuable, and of course afterwards and during we'll be taking questions. Just a brief introduction of Affordable IT. We are an IT services company catering to three major categories: cloud computing, managed services, which is the remote support of all your workstations and file servers, as well as disaster recovery and business continuity, which we'll talk a little bit more about. My name is Bob Bleck. I am VP of Sales and Marketing for Affordable IT, and you'll be hearing later from Victor Manfredi, who is President and Founder of Affordable IT. So let's just go ahead and dive in. What we're talking about today is ransomware, not just what it is, but how to prevent it, and ultimately, if you do get it and are a victim of it, what you can do to alleviate the problem. Just a couple of statistics. It's a bigger problem than maybe a lot of people realize, and the good thing about having a presentation with you guys today is it hasn't proliferated to the point of virus status. However, that's where it's going. But at the moment, in 2015, $325 million in damages. That's everything from having to recover from it or paying the ransoms themselves. Has cost the economy and businesses $325 million just in 2015, and that's just the beginning. Ransomware perpetrators don't really care what vertical that you're from or region. They will target you randomly, or they will target you specifically because they might know that you might be susceptible. And we're going to talk about how to thwart that later on in the presentation. Because, frankly, this is where the money is in North America. 50% of all of the ransomware occurrences happen in the United States. So there's a target. We're targeted here in the States because we're basically make the best target. Just to give you an idea of some scale and how this is accelerating. As of 2014. Through 2015, there's been a 165% increase in instances of ransomware occurrences. And obviously, given the popularity and the profitability, so to speak, of it, we're going to see a greater increase, even in percentage, in 2016. Every single day, 68,000 computers are infected. I'm sorry, it's 5,700 per day, 68,000 per month are infected, which adds up really, really quickly. You don't want to be one of those. Four of the most common ones by name are on the screen here. And again, they are all with the prefix crypto. This page indicates some of the things that I've already talked about, but there are some quick things, some quick tips to protect against ransomware. You want to make sure that you have proper business continuity capabilities in the instance that it does happen to you. You want to prevent it with antivirus. And you just want to make sure that there's an educational process, which we'll go over a little bit further shortly here, in order to prevent getting them in the first place. Here's some articles of some recent instances that cost companies quite a bit of money and quite a bit of heartache and headache. While there really isn't a vertical necessarily, there's been a dirge of instances for ransomware attacks in the healthcare industry. And we're going to pop up on the screen a couple of articles supporting that. One of the reasons is the data for healthcare is supposed to be protected using HIPAA compliances. And so when somebody's personal data is made subject to ransomware attacks, hospitals will pretty much pay anything to get that information back. So they're highly susceptible to ransomware attacks. Oftentimes when one of these attacks occurs, they ask for payment in the form of Bitcoin, which is obviously much harder to trace and much harder to establish any kind of path of payment. So it provides a little bit more cover for those who are perpetrating ransomware attacks. Yeah, this underlying part here is really important, and we'll talk a little bit about more later, but it's a simple case of a member of staff clicking on a malicious link or attachment in an email. A lot of times these ransomware attacks look like an innocuous and simple and innocent click-through for the end user, but they hold the encrypted application that executes the ransomware instance. You can get it through email, you can get it through click-throughs. This is just another example of how ransomware can find its way to your desktop. And we all know this person, and this person might be you. You don't have to raise your hands. It might even have been me, but I'm not going to admit it. But yeah, there's somebody or multiple people in your organization that see something enticing to click on, something shiny, and they'll put that mouse icon on there and click away. So 3 quick things that you can do to prevent becoming victim to ransomware. Education obviously is the most important. Ransomware is useless unless the end user executes something. So those click-on, click-throughs, email files, zip files, things that look innocuous, if your end user doesn't click on them, that ransomware never executes, and while it's still in your system, so to speak, it hasn't proliferated into your systems. So if a good training is paramount in order to reiterate to your end users that, hey, when you see something like this, it looks suspicious, it's not from a source that you recognize, do not click on it. And in the event that you do have something pop up like that, you should have somebody in your facility that has the ability to get rid of it prior to it executing. Also, redundancy is really important in this case. Somebody will go through life without clicking on ransomware. So after a couple of months or a year, 6 months, whatever it might be, they might forget the discipline of not clicking on some of these things. So you might want to reiterate that over and over again. There are some simple security measures. Your edge equipment, if you're in a network and you have a firewall, you want to make sure that firewall has a subscription on it that has the ability to recognize these threats as they come through before they even get to your network. You want this filtered as much as possible. So if you are in a larger network environment, you might want to check on what your existing firewall is doing if you have one. If you don't, you want to get one, and you want to get one that's appropriate to thwarting all of these kinds of attacks. On the desktop and on the server environment, you want to make sure that all of your antivirus is up to date and that you have a viable antivirus solution. So if it does get through the network and then it gets to your desktop, there's still another layer of protection available to you. But having said all of that, obviously these things do get through, and in the event that ransomware gets into your system and is executed and started, you want to be able to recover from that. What we found is the best way to do that. There's really no way to undo what has been done other than to restore to a previous version of that file or that system that did not have the ransomware on it. So backup and business continuity is very important to have as a discipline, something that you do every day on your workstations and on your file servers in order to have a place that you can go to in the event that a ransomware instance occurs. So backup and business continuity, we prescribe for the most part not to do just backup, but to execute a kind of a newer concept called business continuity, where you're not just restoring files, but you can actually go back to a version of your device that, or a version of your systems that did not have the ransomware on it. In some cases, particularly in enterprise environments, backing something up every 5 minutes, you can only back up and restore from the latest backup and restore that the ransomware did not occur on. So you want to do it as often as feasible based on your appliance and based on the services that you subscribe to. You want to do it as often as possible. 5 minutes is recommended, but depending on your threshold, so to speak, for downtime and missing data, you would prescribe the appropriate increments to do your backup and restore. What's great about business continuity is you can roll back before the attack, and in that way it's like it never happened. Ransomware is a lot like what we used to know about viruses. They are constantly evolving. This is not a natural occurrence. It is an intentional occurrence by people with bad intent. Cyber criminals adapt to the code, so every time we put something in front of them, they find a way to get around it. So we have to be diligent. Also, just avoiding detection. They have ways of getting around the methodologies that we're using to secure our systems. They find new techniques and new avenues in which to inject the ransomware code into your environment. So the business continuity part of it provides a safety net. You can get back to where you were prior to when the instance took place, like it never happened, and also eliminate the downtime that can be associated with having to do a full recovery. So in the instance of when you get ransomware, you want to stop the proliferation of it, so you might have to shut down your network, which creates downtime. If you can get back to a place before the ransomware instance occurred, you can be up and running in the increment that you've done your restore. Business continuity is many things, but it's many things put together. So what is not business continuity is just the desktop backup, just the physical server, or just cloud backup of business continuity. It's not cloud only. It's not doing local backups to your workstations, from your workstations and from your servers, including tape. And it's not file-based backup where you're simply doing a copy from one place to the other and bringing something back if necessary. What continuity is using both the local backup in the form, typically in the form of an appliance or software and a network storage device, and the cloud environment. So not only do you have that backup locally on an appliance, but you also have it in the cloud if necessary. In the event that something happens locally where you can't get to the appliance, you can get to the cloud version of it. It's also an image-based backup, which is a little different than how it's been done in the past. Basically, it takes a snapshot image of your systems at the time you did your backup. So not only can you restore file level from that backup, you can actually fire up, so to speak, that instance, that image, as your workstation or as your file server. So it's actually a running device. So you can take your local device offline and you can run on the image version of it, either in the cloud or on the appliance. Using an inverse chain technology, basically that means it's kind of like last in, first out. So it's a much faster way of doing the incremental backups. So you can do those 5-minute backups without taking a lot of space, and it also happens very quickly. Instant virtualization is what I talked about previously, where you can actually take that image of your device and turn it into your workstation, either on the cloud or on your local appliance, and that goes for servers as well. That's database servers, application servers, et cetera, et cetera. So your entire enterprise can be protected. And we talked about this a little bit in the previous slides, but it eliminates basically downtime. So in the event that you would have to do a bare metal restore of some sort from a previous version, you are still running in the background. So are you still running the latest virtual image of your device? So downtime is virtually eliminated. So you lose your workstation or your file server. You can bring it on a local device. We're an elite partner for a company called Data, which is a burgeoning organization that specifically deals with backup and recovery and business continuity through a hybrid environment of appliance and cloud services. So basically what this is illustrating is that the device that on the left that was X'd out and no longer available to you, the image of that device is now available to you on that Data appliance. And you're up and running and virtually eliminated downtime. So so when you get you clean up your device, whether it's a file server or a workstation, all the information can be restored onto the old device or the new device from the image that you've been working on the appliance. All right, I'm now going to pass it on to President and Founder of Affordable IT, Victor Manfredi. Thank y'all.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for showing up. We appreciate it. As Bob said, my name is Vic Manfredi. Oh, that's okay. And I am the president and owner of Affordable IT. What this slide is showing is that 98% of the infections that are out there are only seen by one PC. And basically what that means is only one person in your organization needs to get infected for everybody to get infected. We have different attack vectors. By that, meaning different ways that they can get at your system. 92% of the time, you have a chance of visiting what's called a zero-day phishing site. What zero-day means is it's just a fancy computer term to say it's never been seen by the people that can protect you from viruses. So in other words, they keep coming out with new ways to get at you, and there are people like the malware bites, et cetera, those kind of things. It's a zero-day. They can't include it in their software because they don't even know it exists yet. That's what a zero-day site is. Another way that they get at you is through social engineering phishing. Okay. Now we've all seen this right here where it says, please upgrade your version of Adobe Reader. Well, sometimes if it looks like that, what you see on the screen, probably shouldn't click on that, because if it doesn't look like it's officially from Adobe, you don't want to do that. And then these things like where it says notice to appear and mysterious zip files that happen to appear on your computer from official looking places, you do not want to open those. Okay. That is a classic way that most people just say, oh my God, I have a court notice, so they unzip the file and boom, they're infected. Well, another thing that they'll do to get at you is called a macro infection. And they actually steal these things from the, like the Postal Service website. They'll go on there, steal the graphic, put it in a this email looks very, very official. And there's a couple of ways noted in here that they'll try and get you. If you open up this Word document, that's a macro, which is a programming language inside of Microsoft Office. Some of you might be familiar with, but it's not used all that much. But it's just a programming way to make Office documents do things. Well, unfortunately, these people make it do things in a nefarious way. So they'll, write the code that'll get you infected by opening up just a simple Word doc or an Excel spreadsheet. And then once that gets infected, it infects all of your documents. The second way to do it is down here in the link. It looks very official, USPS.com. But if you actually hover over it in a real email, you'll be able to see where it's going to actually take you. So take a second before you click on any link in your emails. If you don't know where it comes from or if it's a little suspicious, you can cut down on a lot of these kind of attacks if you just hover over the link for a second and read what pops up. If it doesn't match what's exactly there, then don't click on it. You also have to be aware, another technique that they use is they'll very subtly misspell things in the URL. Like they may switch this and it may say USSP. Now, our brains don't read letters, they read words. So that's one of the ways they do that. So you have to make sure that you're very, very conscious of that. You just kind of look at it and go, oh, that's USPS, when it's actually USSP. So you just got to be careful of that. This is a macro infection right here. This is some of the code for all you geeky people out there. But basically what it means is it's going to open up and download from this type of site, and it's going to load this into this path where it says users, public documents. Well, and some people think, well, I don't have, I don't save things to my documents. I save them in different, doesn't matter. This directory structure where it says users, public documents is on everybody's computer when you have Windows. It's installed by default. It's just there. It's one of the ways they take advantage of the convenience of document sharing. These people do that. So that path is always there. So then it downloads a crss.exe type file, whatever the file name might be, and it uses Windows to run the file. And that's what a macro will do. And up here you'll see security warning when you open your Word docs, that kind of thing. If you click that enable content, that's another way that it'll execute the file. Fortunately, most times often than not, when Office gets installed, the security warning does pop up because macros are disabled by default in the install. But if you use them in your daily work, sometimes you'll say, oh, well, it's a pain kind of to be able to have to click this to be able to use it. Put up with the second it takes you to click the button. Trust me, it's worth it. You don't want to go ahead and disable that feature just to make it a little bit easier when you could actually get infected by not having that security in place. These slides here are more of a geeky, techie kind of a thing, but just real quick, this is the Angler and BDEP exploit kits. This is the software that they use. Criminals are using Angler to generate $3 million a month, almost exclusively from ransomware. That's a lot of money. Another new one is called malvertising. That's relatively new. And what they do is they embed the code in regular looking ads, and they actually buy advertising space on normal sites. Fox.com has been infected. There's been a bunch of them. Photobucket got infected, but the site wasn't infected. It was an ad, and you see something like this and go, wow, look at that. That's a great suit. I'm going to click on that. Well, when you do, you're going to get infected. So you got to actually kind of watch what you're doing. Again, hovering over the link, hovering over the image, that will help you, kind of get, find out if that's where you're supposed to be going. If it doesn't look like it's Joseph Clothier's, you probably shouldn't click on it. But that's a new way that they'll get to you. These things are variants of the original crypto wall. I'm sure you all heard of that. But now these guys that do nothing but sit in their mother's basement and come up with ways to get your money, they keep doing these variants, and that's how they stay ahead of the curve. you have 200 different extensions on Windows files that you can use to exploit different things to get into your system. Polymorphic payloads, that sounds very techy, doesn't it? All that means is that it's different ways to deliver the payload. In other words, they're always coming up with new ways to do that. I'm sure we've all seen this. This is different examples of what CryptoLocker looks like. You know, when you can do this kind of thing, and this also shows the kind of people they are, because it says your files have been safely encrypted on this PC. It's like they're doing you a service. You know, that's the kind of sense of humor these people have. They think it's funny to take and steal your money. So they're very unscrupulous, and they'll stop at nothing to get your money. So CryptoWall 4, that's the newest one. Usually it's an email attachment. The default payment is $700. They randomize the file names now, so you don't even know which file it is when they encrypt it. So sometimes, because you could say, oh, okay, well, that's that one file, and you could search in your files and have a backup of that one particular file that you desperately need. Now they just, they give you randomized file names. So, you know, so you can't even tell which files are encrypted. And this one here, you're going to see this one. This is fun. Welcomes you to the CryptoWall community. Right here. By clicking on this, somebody got infected. Here's my resume. Well, if you're not expecting a resume, you probably shouldn't open the zip file. That's probably a good thing. But it has here, you have become a part of a large community CryptoWall. I mean, this is exactly what they do. And then, like here, together, we make the internet a better and safer place. This is some of the other examples of things you'll see. What they'll do here is, this is a countdown to when your files will be permanently encrypted so that you can never get them back. And that's usually a time limit where they destroy your decryption key. Lockie's a relatively new one. It comes through Office macros again, and it gives you a 16-character name, okay, and it actually tracks your data, okay. So you, again, can't tell what your file is, what the name of it is, what the extension is now, because they put .locky after it. At least they won't encrypt your files in your app data folder. At least that's nice. They do cut you a little bit of slack there. But you know, this is kind of the thing that shows up. It embeds itself in the registry of your computer, so it's very hard to remove manually. It can be done, but it's very costly for guys like us to come in and do that because it's time. It takes a lot of time to actually do. Crypt XXX. They had the one with the big FBI seal on it that started this whole thing, kind of. They use malvertising and hacked websites is the only way to get it. But they're down to $500 instead of $700, which is, you know, kind of nice. This one here will also try and steal your credentials. So it's not only just locking up your files, but it'll send information back to that person so that they have your information. And right here, they'll actually translate it if English isn't your primary language. I mean, this is how brazen they are. Like, here's a translation of our threat to you. So they'll give that to you. Here's another new one. They now have one with live chat support, where you can actually chat with the guy that just encrypted your files, and you know, pay him faster, because they actually do have that, which to me is ridiculous. This is something that just recently came out. It's called Ransomware as a Service. You don't even need to know how to write a line of code to do this. You just basically pop in information into a series of boxes and hit create, and the author of the page that creates it takes a 30% cut of all successful ransoms. This is what it looks like. Now, you can't get to this unless you're on the dark web, which is an actual real place. But you know, normal people can't get to it, like you and I. You have to have a different type of router and proxy servers and all this kind of stuff. But people that are into that can get to this. And really, you can just fill in these blanks. How many installs? How many lock screens? How much Bitcoin do you want to ask for? Do you want to fully lock the computer? Do you want to show the lock screen before encrypting? It's all these features that they want to do. and you fill in all this information, you hit generate, and this guy sends you the file to do it. And this is what the final version looks like. Final destruction in 6 days. In other words, if you don't pay them in 6 days, they get rid of your encryption key. And even if you do pay them a lot of these times, they won't send you the decryption key. They'll just take your money, and you'll never hear from them again. There's no way you can guarantee you're going to get your files unencrypted. You know? And for those of you out there using Macs thinking that you're safe, you're not. Macs now are vulnerable. They have started developing viruses and malware and that type of thing for Macs. So here's a quick guide to stopping ransomware. 5 easy tips for you to follow. Deploy a reputable multi-layered endpoint security. That's geek speak for have a good firewall, basically. To make sure that it's looking at, controls your outbound traffic, your inbound traffic, protects system settings, and it stops phishing attacks by kind of filtering your email. Your email's got to come through there. It has different filters and different software on it that will scan this information as it's coming into your system to stop it before it even gets there. Like Bob was saying, deploy backup and business continuity and recovery software. That's really the easiest way to do it. If there is an infection, it says here that the only recourse is to recover the data and minimize the downtime. So there's a lot of different ones, cloud-based or on-premises, that'll help you recover from this. Like Bob said, we use Datto in our company exclusively. We are an elite level dealer with them. We talked about this already, disabling macros and auto run in your systems because they depend on that. The ease and the convenience of different features of computers, sometimes they take advantage of that. It makes our life easier, but it also can, make things a lot harder if you do get something that does take advantage of that. So an extra button click is kind of worth it sometimes if it's not something that you actually need, like we were talking about with the macros. Creating strong policies. If you're on a network, it's easier to do with the server, but you can also do it on your, on your local PCs by using shadow copy. Now, some versions of the CryptoLocker will actually delete shadow copy, and shadow copy is kind of like a virtual snapshot of your system that lets you restore. It's built into Windows. One, you have to turn it on and configure it and that type of thing, which isn't always done inside of Windows. But if you have done it, most of these ransomware ones delete those backups so you don't have access to them. Or I was talking with somebody just this morning that they got the type of ransomware and they went to go do a system restore, which is another one. It's like, oh, I'll just boot in the safe mode, do a system restore. Well, most of these ransomwares will create a system restore point on your system, so when you go back there and it won't work. So you have to keep going back, and a lot of times they'll remove the good system restore points that you already have to prevent you from doing that. Okay? The main one is to educate your users. Okay? Users are often the weakest link. I know everybody thinks, oh, I'm safe, I don't do that, I never do that. Well, everybody does. I've done it. I've been infected, and I own an IT company. How about that? I've been infected actually twice with ransomware because I've clicked on things I shouldn't have. And I will be the first to admit it. But in your business, it's a good idea to not only have a written policy, but some of these things that we've talked about today about, how to spot links, that kind of thing, but to go over it on a consistent basis at least once a quarter. Because, when you hire somebody, you go through the new hire package, you have them sign a little thing saying, yes, I've read this. 6 months goes by, they forget, and they're all comfortable. They're getting an email from Aunt Edna. Hey, look at these cute kitties. And, well, unfortunately, the kitties aren't so cute. So, that kind of thing happens. So you just got to make sure that you go through this with your employees on a more regular basis than just when you hire them. At this time, we're just going to be opening up the questions. If you have any, anybody have any, you can just type in the box there. And we'll try to answer them. But like you said, if you don't have any right now, be happy to answer them later by just responding to your invite to this, and they'll pass the information along to us, and we'll just see if we have anybody. Nope. Well, thanks a lot for coming, and we appreciate the BBB for having us down here. It's a great organization, and thank you very much for having us in.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Again, if you have any questions afterwards, or if you're watching this at a later date and you would like to go ahead and email me, I can just forward those questions on, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to get in contact with you. And keep your eyes on your email for some more invitations. I think these gentlemen are going to give us some more information later on this fall, some other things that you can do to protect your business. So thank you for joining us, and have a good day.